And there are three dangerous subtle oculomotor signs which are included with the mnemonic INFART. IN for impulse normal, FA for fast phase alternating, and RCT refixation on cover test. Impulse normal is head impulse normal, the test we were discussing earlier, and fast phase alternating. If the fast phase is changing, direction changing, then we say it is due to central cause. Now, what is HINTS? It is nothing but the mnemonic for three tests, clinical tests. Horizontal head impulse test, HI for horizontal head impulse test, N for nystagmus, and TS for test of skew. And HINTS has recently been shown to detect brainstem and cerebellar stroke with greater sensitivity than neuroimaging, because for the first 24 hours it may be more beneficial to do the HINTS test to rule out central causes than MRI even, because MRI takes certain time for the images to come, representative images to show. Now, clinical test technique, head thrust test, it is we have already shown the picture. It is inexpensive, easily performed during examination, but limitations is non-quantitative. It cannot quantify the disease, may not detect bilateral vestibular loss or mild unilateral vestibular loss. Caloric testing, it's gold standard, we all know, we have read in our ENT books in MBBS. It's gold standard study for detecting unilateral vestibular loss. We irrigate the ears with alternate cold and hot water, 44 dB and 30 degrees, and this induces which the directional preponderance and canal paralysis. Continuing with clinical test, the Dix-Hallpike test, which is done for the BPPV, it is a gold standard test for eliciting positional nystagmus in patients with BPPV. It is not always easy to demonstrate observable nystagmus. You need a specialist to do the test. The result can also be affected by speed of the maneuver and the plane of the occiput. It has around 50 to 80% sensitivity of the diagnosis for BPPV. Now, continuing with clinical test, HINTS test. Repeatedly I am saying HINTS test can reliably distinguish peripheral from cerebellar or brainstem CBA. Sensitivity is around 100% and specificity 96% for stroke. Limitation dependent upon the expertise of the, not everybody can do, but with proper training can do. Not all the physicians are aware of the test and its interpretation. And supine lateral head test, more efficient to diagnose, and horizontal canal BPPV, but it is again non-quantitative. Now, here are the pictorial representation of 5 most frequent peripheral vestibular disorders, being acute unilateral and bilateral vestibulopathy, vestibular paroxysmia, which is nothing but compression of the 8th nerve complex, and BPPV, we all know, and Meniere's disease. Approach to a disease. Now coming to the management part. The approach, we will go for an algorithmic clinical approach, is always useful in arriving at a diagnosis with least diagnostic test. A set of questions help differentiate various causes of true vertigo. Believe me, in vertigo patients, if you talk to the patient, you take proper history, how the job is done there only. You can come to a provisional diagnosis, and only then you can go for test to confirmation of that provisional diagnosis. A set of questions like onset, of course, when it occurs, time course, how long it remains, and the length of the attacks. Each attack, how long it is remaining. Does head motion incite or aggravate the vertigo? We all know that vertigo which aggravated by head motion comes from mainly BPPV, and there are other causes also. Are there any associated cochlear symptoms like hearing loss, tinnitus, sensation of oral fullness, prediction, Meniere's disease, or certain other conditions? Are these exaggerated when dizziness is worse? Was there any antecedent head injury? Head injury can give rise to vertigo in a lot of different mechanisms, like they can induce this positional vertigo, they can induce perilimb fistula, like that. Pressure change or that barotrauma can cause this perilimb fistula and can cause vertigo. And or symptom of viral syndrome, it can cause vestibular neuritis. Is it associated with headache? Now we are hearing a lot about vestibular migraine. a central cause but relatively common, which was underdiagnosed previously. Now it is coming to light. Are there any neurological symptoms? Obviously, central causes will be having accompanying neurological symptoms like headache, loss of function, etc. Is there any history of drug? Again, relevant. Several drugs we know have vertigo as a dizziness as a side effect. Is there any history of any psychiatric illness? We have already mentioned that patients of vertigo are already depressed, anxious, and psychiatric illness per se can give rise to feeling of vertigo, but this vertigo doesn't have a pattern. It tends to linger unless you address the true issue. Presentation of vertigo symptom: rotational vertigo, commonly in acute vestibular disorder, central or peripheral. Positional vertigo, usually BPPV. Also, vestibular migraine can present in a protean way, one of which may be positional vertigo and central positional vertigo. Unsteadiness with no rotatory feeling, it is usually seen in bilateral vestibular dysfunction, cerebral and neuromuscular causes. And non-specific dizziness like pre-syncope, sometimes patient, the feeling of pre-syncope is described as vertigo, and psychogenic of course. Classification of vertigo can be single episode, can be recurrent attacks, with hearing loss, without hearing loss. Single episode vertigo, acute vertigo with hearing loss, it's seen in with cochlear involvement, it's seen in labyrinthitis. Vestibulocochlear neuritis as seen in Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. Acute vertigo without hearing loss seen in vestibular neuritis. Am I going too fast? Is it okay? Okay. Classification of vertigo. Recurring attack of vertigo with hearing loss, we'll enumerate the causes like Meniere's disease, vestibular migraine, autoimmune disease of the inner ear, relatively common disease, relatively rare disease, autoimmune disease of the inner ear. Neurosyphilis, autosyphilis has become irrelevant nowadays. Perilymphatic fistula can be seen with fistula test. Vertigo due to vertebrobasilar insufficiency, the ICA syndrome. Continued, recurrent attacks of vertigo without hearing loss. We get this in BPPV, perilymphatic fistula, vestibular migraine, metabolic vertigo, paroxysmal vertigo of the childhood. Even in childhood, there are a lot of cases of vertigo do come, and they have different reasons, ranging from BPPV to psychogenic, from stress, etc. Vertigo due to vertebrobasilar insufficiency, spinocerebellar degeneration, episodic ataxia type 2, tumors of cerebellum and brainstem, Arnold-Chiari syndrome, toxic vestibulopathies, example aminoglycoside. Physician dealing with aminoglycoside antibiotics can come across this type of vertigo syndromes. Vertigo triggers like change of head posture, initiates vertigo or increases vertigo in BPPV, maybe in vestibular migraine, central positional vertigo. Menstruation sleep deprivation can be provoking or triggering factor in vestibular migraine. Elevators, closed spaces can precipitate vertigo in panic attacks, and loud noise, Valsalva, can increase it in fistula syndrome. Also, superior semicircular canal dehiscence syndrome is another entity. Now, duration of attack. A few seconds, peripheral causes like unilateral loss of vestibular function, late stages of acute vestibular neuritis, late stages of Meniere's disease. Several seconds to a minute, usually BPPV, also perilymphatic fistula. Several minutes to 1 hour, posterior transient ischemic attack, perilymphatic fistula. Hours in Meniere's disease, perilymphatic fistula, migraine, acoustic neuroma. Days, early acute vestibular neuritis, stroke, migraine, multiple sclerosis. So we can see that vestibular migraine can present in different forms and weeks. Obviously, psychogenic is the most common. Again, when a patient presents with dizziness, history of medication, caffeine, nicotine, alcohol intake, history of head trauma or whiplash injury is relevant. We have to clarify whether there is false sense of motion or spinning sensation. If it is true vertigo, then we have to decide whether there is any associated neurological deficit, which can be CNS causes, we have to go for neuroimaging for that. Other causes like traumatic cervicogenic also. And if it is not associated with neurological deficit but associated with other symptoms like headache, in case of headache with vertigo, we have to consider the diagnosis of vestibular migraine. And if it is associated with hearing loss, we continue in the next slide. If hearing loss is present, no fever, then we consider Meniere's disease. With fever, we consider labyrinthitis, which can be a complication of CS1. Without hearing loss, again vestibular neuritis and BPPV. BPPV we can ascertain, confirm by performing a Dix-Hallpike test. Now, important concern: how to differentiate peripheral causes from central causes of vertigo. We all know this. Just rapidly, we are going now. Direction associated with nystagmus. Peripheral is usually unidirectional. First phase is opposite the side of lesion. Central is usually bidirectional or sometimes unidirectional. Purely horizontal nystagmus without torsional component uncommon in peripheral, common in central. Vertical or purely torsional nystagmus never present, may be present in central. Visual fixation inhibits nystagmus and vertigo of peripheral origin, but in central cases there is no inhibition. Severity of vertigo is usually more marked in peripheral vertigo, but in central causes it is often mild. Direction of spin is towards fast phase in peripheral, and central it is variable. Direction of fall is towards slow phase and variable in central. Continue with the distinguishing features. Duration of symptoms is finite, minutes, days or weeks, but recurrent in peripheral. But in central it may be chronic, days together. Tinnitus or deafness often present in peripheral, usually absent in case of central. Associated CNS abnormalities are usually not present in peripheral, but extremely common. Example: diplopia, hiccups, cranial neuropathies, dysarthrias, etc. Common causes being BPPV, labyrinthitis, Meniere's disease, ischemia, trauma, toxin, etc. And central causes being vascular, demyelinating disease like multiple sclerosis, neoplasm, etc. Now coming to the management part, diagnose the cause, not merely suppress the symptoms. Restore normalcy to the deranged balance function by promoting vestibular compensation through physical therapy. Improve the neuronal metabolism, cognition, and correct any concomitant psychological disorder. And provide symptomatic relief with anti-vertigo and anti-emetic drugs. Principles of management: empathy and reassurance. It is very important. Vestibular rehabilitation, pharmacotherapy and surgery. Pharmacotherapy: anti-vertigo drugs mainly to provide symptomatic relief, and it is not curative treatment. Vestibular suppressants, now it is said that it should be discontinued within 3 days because it affects the corrective mechanism of the body. Suppressants current recommendation is less than 24 hours. Now, enumerating the vestibular suppressant, who are there? They are antihistamines like meclizine, dimenhydrinate, diphenhydramine, etc. Calcium channel blockers like cinnarizine. Anticholinergic, benzodiazepines, antiemetics. Major drawbacks of these vestibular suppressants are they depress the CNS and inhibit the central vestibular compensatory mechanism. Some causes extrapyramidal syndromes, some causes